Greetings, everyone. So, I just finished Empire of the Vampire by Kristoff. This is going to be another one for my favorites tab in Goodreads. 5 stars. I did have a few problems with it, though. Not a lot, but this one, I've heard some people say they didn't like certain things about it, which made me think it was like some of the sexual scenes, which I didn't really care about those. It was the part, kind of about 3/4 of the way through, a lot of the main characters die. And it's just the main character and this girl. And it kind of drags a little bit. And just like, if I was reading this during the summer, I probably wouldn't care so much, but it's like the world they live in is so cold, and it's so cold here right now. It just like gives me the chills. It was like, it gets pretty brutal. I think back to Nevernight because that's another one of his books, and I compare it to that one too. A lot of that one also, they had a lot of complaints about Kristoff writing a female character like going through puberty and having her period for the first time. Like, people didn't like that he did it, and I think he did it fine, I think, and like having her first sexual experience, but it's like, because he's a man, people think he shouldn't be able to, so they all criticized him or something. But I think it was good. Nevernight was good. This book is good. But yeah, the brutality of it is, like, it reminded me of the Powder Mage a little bit, because one thing is, like, the vampire hunters, they smoke this, like, dried vampire blood. And they mix it with some other chemicals. And it's very similar to the gunpowder snorting in Powder Mage. And also Powder Mage, they were really brutal to horses. In this book, he had 2 good horses, and they both died brutal deaths. And I think the first one was brutal. And the second one, because it was so cold, him and this girl that are by themselves, he had to like cut open the horse and put her inside the dead horse's body. Which was pretty bad. That's how cold it was. It was like falling through the ice too. That kind of, a lot of the frozen, everything like frozen over. The world is a little bit. Another one of my complaints is that the world, they have this thing called Day's Death, where an asteroid hit and sent up a dust cloud, so there's no more daytime. Kind of like the sun's there, but it's not strong enough to like keep vampires at bay. So the vampires can walk around during the day, but they're just not as strong. They're a little weakened. And it was like 27 years ago, and yet there's this place, San Michon, and like all this whole like, there's groups of people that have all these defenses and like 1,000-year-old books that talk about how to deal with vampires. Like, what are you talking about? It's only been like 27 years since you've had this vampire problem, right? How's it thousands of years of lore? So that was one of the kind of things I thought was kind of weird. So this book is pretty awesome. Because, well, it's different than what I thought, first of all. That's another, not really a complaint, but it's something I noticed. Like, it's not what I expected. If you go to the front, there's a cool map. And it's got these 4 corners, right, of different vampire houses, let's say. Like, Harry Potter has the 4 houses. There's Divok, which is like a bear symbol, and it's super strong vampires. Chastain has 2 wolves, and those vampires can control animals. And I think they maybe turn into animals, or is that a different one? I'm not really sure about that. Voss is like a crow, I think, and it's like they have super strong skin. Like, it's almost like hitting on stone or something when you try to stab them. And then Elon, which is a snake, they have the ability to like get inside your mind and mentally control you and stuff. But the Voss ones also do that. Maybe it's just the different levels. There's also 3 levels. There's like wretched vampires, or just kind of like mindless zombie hordes. You don't really think about them as being vampires. You think of them more as zombies. Medium vampires, you don't even see any of those in the book at all. And then there's like the high blood vampires or whatever, like the nobles. They're like super strong, like a master vampire. So you pretty much see the wretches and you see the high bloods. And then there's the king of the vampires is named Fabian Voss. And he has like these children that are like the princes of forever, and he's the king of forever or whatever. So like, those are like the strongest ones of that lineage. So the book starts out the main character, Chevalier Leon, which is called the Black Lion. He was like this legendary vampire hunter who ended up killing the Vampire King, and he's giving his story to a historian, a vampire historian from the Blood Chastain. So he's trapped in a cell to be put to death by the vampires, but they're going to get his story out of him, like how he came to be and how he was able to kill the king of the Voss, whatever. So it's almost like these 4 different groups of vampires are against each other, warring against each other. So he's giving a story to the Chastains, which aren't really in the story so much. It's always the Vosses. Well, the Dievok and the Elon aren't really in there that much. Wait, there was like the Elon, or no, there was a Dievok guy that was with the Vosses' sons and daughters, I think, right? Maybe that's just what kind of powers they have, and they can all work together. I don't know what the deal is. So, when you end up getting, when somebody, no wait, this is the way the vampires work in this book is different. Like if a vampire bites you, it may just kill you, may not do anything, but sometimes you'll become a vampire, and the time when you rise up again may be different time periods. So you may immediately become a vampire and have all your looks like a normal person and be like a high blood or whatever, or you might be like pretty much decaying and starting to like rot in your grave, and then you come alive, then you become a wretched, so you're just like a nothing vampire. So, and I think maybe they can control it a little bit because it's just kind of like a thing where he's trying to turn somebody at the end, which I didn't think you could even control that at all. It's a little bit weird. So you got these people called Pale Bloods, which is kind of like Blade. It's like they stole the thing from Blade. What was the other thing at the end? He totally ripped off. What's the Rorschach guy from that that Marvel movie? The Rorschach. He says like, "Do you think you're locked in here with me, or I'm locked in here with you, or whatever?" Right? And then he like kills him at the end, or attacks him. He totally ripped that off. He totally ripped off Blade. And there's maybe some other things he totally ripped off. But you get these Pale Bloods. They're like Blade. They're half vampire. They have all the strength and none of their weaknesses. Like they have certain like blood skills that are similar to the 4 things, right? So the main character, Chevalier Leon, or Little Lion, they call him Little Lion, but later on he becomes a legend and they call him the Black Lion. He seems to have none of these abilities, so they call him a frail blood, which is a really cool trick. Like if you imagine like you're reading Harry Potter, and he goes to the Sorting Hat and he says, "Well, you're not anything," and then he turns out to be the best because he's mastered the art of nothingness or whatever. It's like the King of the Avatar. What was it? The Korean MMO get thing where the guy's like he doesn't master any of the weapons. But then he kind of realizes, accidentally, that he's like a sanguimancer. He can control blood. And he can grab vampires and just make their blood boil. But he has to learn it, I guess. Because you don't really learn it in this book until like the very end. He shows that he's mastered it, sort of. So, really cool. I mean, also, these Pale Bloods, the whole deal is they get... How are they even born? I can't even remember. Like, oh, his mother fucked a vampire. A human and a vampire mix. So, he doesn't know who his father is. But he's got this weird sanguimancy thing. It's not one of the 4 houses, so it must be somebody that's like from a long time ago, thousands of years old, maybe, that they all thought had died out. So it hasn't really answered that question yet. So the next book, Empire of the Damned, you'll probably get more into that. And like I thought the book was going to be the 4 vampire clans. Like everybody's pretty much a vampire in the world, and it's like an empire of the vampire, and all the 4 clans are fighting each other. And that wouldn't really make sense because the vampires have to eat people. So if they kill everybody, they have no food and they all die out. So this is another one of those typical, we're going to follow the vampire hunter, and it's just about vampires, which is kind of lame. That's not what I was hoping for. I was hoping for something different. But at the end, he kind of maybe is starting to side with the vampires because he realizes the church is corrupt and they're about to sacrifice this girl he's been trying to save this whole time. So he kind of turns on his whole friends and religion and everything. So, yeah, it starts out the middle of the book, though, the meat of the book of when he's like going to Saint Michon. Oh, he also just ripped off Christianity and totally just changed everything. Another thing I don't like is like it's randomly just they speak English, but every now and then they speak a little French. It's almost like when Gambit talks in the X-Men. It's like he'll say mon ami or ma chère or mademoiselle or oui. They never say yes in this book the whole time. They always say oui. Is no in French? Spanish and English is both no. I think it is in French too. But they always say oui, madame le chérie, and all this kind of like Frenchy stuff. But then everything else is English. But then the really fancy vampires, they talk like they're from the Bible. They talk like ancient Aramaic. They say thee and thy and thine like Jesus talk. So what language is this? What world is this? Obviously it's not the world. Oh, also the days of the week are different. Like they call Sunday pre-day, something like that. And Friday is friendin or something. But they never say any of the other days of the week. Everything is Sunday or Friday. So the religion, the Christianity, instead of a cross, there's a wheel. And they don't call him the Christ, they call him the Redeemer. And pretty much the same story as the Bible. You know, he's the Son of God and he gave himself for the world. And there was this angel, right, that caught his blood when he was killed on the wheel and caught his blood in a cup. So there's this legend of the Holy Grail, but it's actually the cup that caught the Redeemer's blood. But then this one nun is looking for that Holy Grail, and she's got this whole like RPG gang with her. She's got like that's another thing. Saoirse is like an Irish name, and she's like got a panther, and she's like a Viking. But and like the South is kind of like the Middle East in this book because they speak kind of like Arabic. Everything's got Arabic names. And the West is like they have done whatever, kind of like dwarves, or maybe that's where the Irish people would be from. And then the North and the East would be where like the regular white people will be from. And the North, I don't even know. Let's see this map again. Yeah, she's got this like RPG gang. There's like this a bard character with a crossbow, an old priest, and she's a nun, and the Saoirse and the panther, and then Dior. She's the one that's like, everybody thinks she's a guy at first because she wears a coat and she dresses as a man. And then you find out she's actually a girl, and the Grail is actually herself. This has also been ripped off of like Dan Brown. What was it? Da Vinci Code. This is just ripped off from the Da Vinci Code. So so many rip-offs in this book. So she's like the blood of the Redeemer because her ancestor was the Redeemer, right? So she's got this power. She cuts her hands and she bleeds on the vampires and they burst into flames. And she can also like heal people from mortal wounds. And also the people, I didn't even get into this. When you go to, what do you call them? The Silver Saints. The Silver Saints is what the vampire hunters are called. When you take them to Saint Michon, they do the training, you know, and as you level up, they give you big tattoos in silver. They put silver in your skin, and it makes like big, giant, holy pictures of eagles or like crosses or angel wings. And like this guy, he gets a big lion because his last name is Leon. And he has no affinity to any of these, like Divok, where he would get a bear or something, right? But he doesn't have any of that. And they also put like a 7-star on your hand. Instead of having like the cross, the symbol is like the wheel that the Redeemer was killed on, which is like a 7-pointed star. There's one here in the front, if you don't know what a 7-pointed star looks like. Looks like that. And the more faith you have, the more your tattoos glow. so you can blind vampires with it, and they call that being silver clad. It's like you're shrouding yourself with light, holy light, and you can just grab vampires with your 7-star thing on your palm and like burn them and shit. And they also like really into chemistry. They have like silver bombs. They got black ignis, which is kind of like napalm or something, or like gunpowder. They have, I thought there were some other ones like poison and stuff. Maybe they have that too. They got the powder, the sangreal. What is that stuff called? Sanctum? I think it's called sanctum. When they take the vampire blood and they mix it with holly root and some other kind of stuff, and they dry it, and they gotta like go through this process of burning it and like drying it out and stuff. And it keeps their hunger at bay because they're pretty much like slowly going insane, and they all kind of want to become a vampire over time, but they never do. Like before they get too far along, they'll do this red rite where they'll take them to the bridge of the heavens and they'll kill them and chuck them off the end and just kill them. So vampires, the weaknesses are the sun and the silver and holy blood apparently, and holy land. They can't walk on holy land. But the one place was corrupted because of something, and it didn't become holy anymore. And also running water. They can't cross running water. So then some of them get pulled into the water, and they start like, the water immediately just turns them to dust and like blows them away, which is a really cool scene where the rivers all it gets so cold the rivers freeze, and the vampires are chasing them across the river. And Dior, the girl, she has like this sled. The dogs are pulling her, and she cuts the rope with the sled. It's like a bomb, and she like ignites it, and it blows up the river, and all the vampires get sucked into the river and die. A lot of them. Pretty dope idea to deal with these vampires. But then there's also this whole story, like it goes back and forth between the story of how he became the best Silver Saint ever, and the story of how he's helping this girl that is like the Holy Grail escape from the place. And it's just a really good back and forth. He's telling the story to this guy, and he keeps like wanting to tell the different story, and the guy doesn't want, and they keep fighting. It's like, it's just really good, really juicy. And like about halfway through, I was like, yeah, this is going to be one of my favorites. And then like it started dragging. I was like, well, maybe not. It's starting to like annoy me how cold it is and how bleak and desolate it is, and he's killing all these horses, and like everybody's dead, and it's just kind of just keeps dragging. But then towards the end, it got really fucking good again, and I was back in. I'm like, hell yeah, brother, favorites. But definitely check this one out. Empire of the Damned should be getting in February. But man, some of the artwork also, like this looks like a big book, 730 pages, I think it was. But like a lot of it is like cool art. Look how many. Can you see like which ones are? Yeah, there you see like all these black pages are like illustrations, and then you'll get like a chapter title and then a little chapter poem, and then it'll start a chapter. So a lot of the pages are just kind of nothing. So it's not as long as it seems. But yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything else for you. But a lot of good vampire fights, a lot of good vampire lore. Hopefully, it'll get into more like what I was expecting with the second book. Also, like, there's no food in this world. How do you have plants? The sun's not out, so it's like everything is like potatoes and mushrooms. It's all they can eat. And it's kind of funny because he hates potatoes, and everybody keeps offering him potatoes. And he drinks a lot, and he's like always wanting to smoke, but he doesn't have any sanctum, and he's like these guys, they are hard to kill. So he's like, he gets his whole leg broken at one point, and he like heals it back in a day because he found him some sanctum to smoke. But if you don't have that sanctum, it like takes a long time. I mean, he gets his throat cut, and he like survives it. I mean, it is hard to kill one of these Silver Saint guys. Oh, and also, let me mention this point. This is the part that I didn't mind the sex scenes, like the straight ones. But then he's got this one guy, he's like his nemesis the whole time he's in Silver Saint school, right? this guy is always an asshole to him, and he like somebody turns one of the vampires loose because they put the vampires in this horse stable so the horses don't freak out when they see vampires. Somebody turned one of those vampires loose on him, and it kind of tried to kill him. And he was out sneaking around with this girl, which he wasn't supposed to do, in the secret library. And he notices this guy coming out of the room where the place is, whatever. So he assumes it's him because they hate each other. He's trying to get me killed. And it turns out he was in there having gay sex with the blacksmith. And he was like, I'm not going to tell anyone about this, about your being gay. So it was like they're best friends from then on out. Just immediately, he's like, well, all right then, brother. Nice to see you again, brother. Just always like shaking each other's hands and hugging. It was like, didn't tell anybody about your gay fucking. We're best friends now. What? Like immediately, that's all it took. Just like being okay with somebody's gayness turns his whole relationship around. Oh, okay. Still, good book though. They didn't get descriptive with the gay sex, so it's not bad. It's not too bad. Is there anything else weird that happened? I'm trying to remember. With the old man. Oh, there's another kind of gay scene, but one of the people died, so I won't say any more about that. Anyway, 5 out of 5.